Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is May the 21st, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. It's Tuesday. It's still hectic, it's still busy, but we're making it through. Um, Almost got into bad day territory, but luckily we're all right. I got pulled over after work, and that's always stressful for my fucking black ass. But luckily it was the old like vibe check, like, hey, you got a broken tail light. Though they didn't say that, and that's what like wound up like confusing me a little bit. Was it like they pulled me over and it was weird. Like I could tell like literally like they stopped halfway at a turn intersection and I was going straight. And I was like, well, that's weird that they did that. Okay. And then they pulled out and then get into my lane. I'm like, well, that's also weird. But there's like a car between us at this point. And then they run the sirens and I'm like, huh. This is odd. And oh, look, it looks like they're pulling right behind me. Great, great, great. So yeah, they did all that and made a little bit of a hullabaloo because of course they're not exactly like it's not the smallest little side median and all that shit. They got their fucking cop SUV shit, all that. But yeah, so he pulls me over and he's like, yeah, your white light is showing on your tail light, and I just wanted to give you a warning for that. And I was like, oh, okay. But I was just kind of confused, I guess, and nervous. And he was in, I guess, a nice mood. So he proceeds to, like, explain it to me. And, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So I understand. And then I finally, get home. I go back and I look at it and I understand what he's trying to tell me. And essentially that the tape I have, because I do have a broken tail light. That's true. You got me on that, officer. It's broke. And, I'm just too broke to fix it. And I have this red tape though, right? And I have this red tape and I put a thing of clear tape over it because it doesn't quite cover, and this red tape's, a little pricey. And it's like really thin. So, kind of reinforce it with this other tape. Anyway, I've had this on for a while now, like months plus, maybe, I don't know, it's getting up there. So it had just faded a lot. So hopefully I don't have that situation again, or not for a while. Though they did the warning thing where they like took my name and number but didn't give me an official thing. I'm sure it's logged somewhere, maybe, sort of. I don't know. Cops move like cryptids, and I really don't like thinking too much about them. I cover enough news about them busting up somebody's fucking head over some fucking bullshit, or just pulling 007 on a fucking acorn. Anyway, so that was my day, a little hectic. It's been hot, it's been sweaty, but overall good, overall fine. Let's see, food corner last night, switched it up for the Monday. I had burger, hot dogs, fries. Also with the fries, it was fries and tots. And then also with the fries and tots, it was mozzarella sticks because I just have them and I just couldn't say no to myself. Also, I should add too, it's kind of like the rules with Five Guys when it comes to when I say burgers. You should just assume that I'm probably gonna put bacon on said burger. I will say I'm not doing a double burger. That's a bit excessive. But bacon on that thing, of course. That's just my style. Anyway, so that was my meal. Also, I had a handful of strawberries and I had some Fritos earlier. And an energy drink. So there you go. You're getting the full cut, the full dossier, the Snyder cut of my food corner. Okay. All right. Enough yapping about my personal life, my bullshit, my triumphs and tragedies. Let's go ahead and do our startup and get into some news. That real shit. Ooh. Okay. From the Associated Press. Israel says it will return video equipment seized from AP, the Associated Press. The Israeli The Israeli government will return a camera and broadcasting equipment it had seized from the Associated Press on Tuesday, reversing course hours after it blocked the news organization's live video of Gaza and faced mounting criticism for interfering with independent journalism. The government seized the Associated Press's equipment positioned in southern Israel after accusing it of violating a new media law by providing images to the satellite channel Al Jazeera. Israeli officials used a new law on May 5th to close down Qatar-based Al Jazeera within Israel, confiscating its equipment, banning its broadcast, and blocking its websites. After Israel seized the AP equipment, the Biden administration, journalism organizations, and an Israeli opposition leader condemned the government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and pressured it to reverse the decision. Let's see here. Israel's communications minister Shlomo Kari said late Tuesday on social media platform X, "I have now ordered to cancel the action and return the equipment to the AP." Kari said the Defense Ministry will undertake a review of news. Still working its way through. A review of news outlets' positioning of live video of Gaza. Officials hadn't previously told AP the positioning of its live camera was an issue. Instead, they repeatedly noted that the images appeared in real time on Al Jazeera, which is like, that makes us so mad. And they had threatened the AP about it. And the AP's like, we're not going to stop filming it. And Al Jazeera literally is one of thousands of news outlets that pay us for this footage. So we're not going to stop giving it to them. And we're not going to stop filming. So essentially, Israel said, we're going to do something about it. And then they faced some backlash and they said, okay, well, maybe it's not worth it. We can just say, hey, we sent a message by doing this. And essentially, I feel like, in less than 24 hours or so, they backed off. Or at least they are backing off on this issue for now. That being said, it still is what it is. It's still very blatant. It's not surprising to me that you see Israel doing this kind of shit. If anything, I'm more surprised that people actually barking at them actually had an effect, it seems. So I don't know. Still very unfortunate the situation going on, with Al Jazeera, them literally being blocked. And it's this is probably the only independent outlet that's actually saying it without doing any kind of crazy spin, in my opinion, a spin that I actually can understand and respect. And I feel like it actually aligns with what I've seen and, historically or whatever. And it's they're being shut down and they're being cut out of the conversation as much as possible by Israel, which I just think it's that in and of itself should just be the hugest red flag and saying why are we supporting this? Why are they trying to hide this shit? And of course their defense is any and every time it's well, Hamas is involved. That's why Al Jazeera is a problem. It's because they're a terrorist news outlet. They've literally bombed the AP when they're working in the Gaza Strip. And they're well, sorry, there was Hamas in your building. Crazy. And that was before the war. That was the last conflict war that they were, that shit happened. I believe 2021 or something. So yeah, man, the beat goes on. I'm glad that they at least backed down. Israel did. But I'm sure this isn't the last we've seen on the atrocities. Obviously, shit's still going on in Gaza right now as we speak. That's, the worst fucking part about it. But we move. Let's hit the next beat from the BBC. Passengers tell horror aboard turbulence hit flight. Oh boy, we're getting back into it again. I think you know where this story is going. Or maybe you do. Passengers have recounted scenes of absolute terror when severe turbulence hit their Singapore Airlines flight, launching people and objects across the cabin. A 73-year-old British man, Jeff Kitchen. That's actually a really solid ass name. Especially if you were a fucking chef. Imagine Jeff Kitchen, Food Network. That's peanut butter and jelly, baby. He's probably not a chef. Sorry. Died from he's dead. Fuck. Died from a suspected heart attack, while more than 30 people were injured when the London-Singapore flight suffered a sudden drop as a meal service was underway. So damn, that's people are the most relaxed. And definitely this was a story to me that was a big reminder that if you're ever on the airplane, you should maybe just keep that shit strapped, like seatbelt wise. But granted, there's so many times where it's like, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom, or like it's a super fucking long flight. Really, do you expect me to do that? Or like this mealtime, you just want to kind of kick back, like let your waist hang. I don't know. But needless to say, this is when things just hit the fucking fan. And like by that I mean people hit the fan. But yeah, let's see here. Another passenger said the aircraft suddenly started tilting up and shaking. I started bracing for what was happening, and very suddenly there was a very dramatic drop. So everyone seated and not wearing a seatbelt was launched immediately into the ceiling. 28-year-old student Dizafran Azmir told Reuters. Some people hit their heads on the baggage cabins overhead and dented it. They hit the places where lights and masks are and broke straight through it, he added. So yeah, and of course, you're not going to be surprised when I say the plane. The Singapore-bound Boeing 777 300ER diverted to Bangkok following the mid-air incident, making an emergency landing at 15:54 or 15:45 local time, or 8:45 GMT, with some 211 passengers and 18 crew aboard. Sorry. That being said, I have to add the stipulation that even though this is a Boeing, I have no evidence or anything that says, hey, that there was a Boeing-related malfunction that caused any incident here. This seems to just be turbulence, as I know as of now, but obviously if there's any changes to that information, I will let y'all know. That being said, no matter what, that's still crazy and fucking unfortunate that someone died. So obviously my condolences to Mr. Kitchen and his family. But yeah, they had to divert to, I believe, Bangkok. And instead of, their initial destination. But, a lot of seemingly pretty gnarly injuries in terms of just like people like somersaulting and fucking up their neck, or like kind of stated from the quote earlier, just running their head through like the ceiling of the plane. So those are some nasty boo-boos for sure. Who knows, maybe there's a lawsuit for these people in their future. I don't know. I mean, definitely get your bag. But yeah, there was an in-air mishap and I wanted to cover it. Some turbulence for sure. Was there anything else I only wanted to pull here? Yeah, the initial airport they were trying to go to was Singapore Changi Airport, but they had to divert to Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok. I tried. Apologies. But yeah, so there you go. We'll call that covered. We'll move on to the next thing. From Barron's. I do believe there's a more detailed report, though, and it came initially from the AFP. I'm sorry. So there you go. But from from Barron's, EU accused of financing dumping of migrants in Sahara. The European Union admitted on Tuesday to a difficult situation, quotations there, after a journalism consortium said Tunisia, Morocco, and Mauritania were dumping migrants in the desert using the bloc's funds. The wide-ranging investigation by Lighthouse Reports, with outlets including Le Monde and the Washington Post, paints the EU as complicit in a system of mass displacement and serious rights abuses. Europe supports finances and is directly involved in clandestine operations in North African countries to dump tens of thousands of black people in the desert or remote areas each year to prevent them from coming to the EU, a report said. Such operations, it said, were run thanks to money, vehicles, equipment, intelligence, and security forces provided by the EU and European countries. Now, this to me is very ghastly. It's to me, it's a very damning report, and the response from these people to be like, oh, let me just read a quote from European Commission spokesman Eric Mammer. This is a difficult situation. It's a fast moving situation, and we will continue to work on it. Whatever the fuck that vague bullshit means, it's like, no, motherfuckers, you guys are complicit in a situation where you're saying, hey, and like I said, what I was trying to get to before I kind of got a little chased my tail, we've covered about how the UK has this fucking bullshit ass Rwanda policy that they're trying to jam. Fuck the Tories. Fuck you, Rishi Sunak. Like, you're trying to fucking do this thing where you're just offloading these people to Rwanda, a place where it's not going to be any better for them. It's going to be worse. Most likely they're going to try to want to leave there as well. But essentially, you're just trying to shoo away your problem, which is migration that you do not want to handle. You do not want these other people at your door. You do not want them in your communities, so you want them out, and you want someone else to handle it. So you made a deal with Rwanda, yada, 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 right? That's something we at least know about. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's not right. It's fucked up. But, like, to me, what the EU is doing as a whole here is just as bad, if not worse, because they're doing it in the goddamn dark. You're literally taking a bunch of brown people and saying, ew, gosh, you guys keep trying to come here. Go away. And you are paying other countries to handle this problem. Essentially, do the dirty deed of taking these people and then throwing them into the desert and saying, hey, whatever happens, happens. And you're calling it, and you're chalking it up to a difficult situation. So fuck that. Fuck these people. Fuck the EU for that shit. The report said refugees and migrants in Morocco, Mauritania, and Tunisia were being apprehended based on the color of their skin, loaded onto buses, and driven to the middle of nowhere, often arid desert areas without food or water. Others reportedly were taken to border areas where they were allegedly sold by the authorities to human traffickers and gangs who torture them for ransom. The 27-nation EU has struck deals with the 3 named countries with explicit financing to boost stopping irregular migration to Europe. They go through, like Brussels has given 150 million euros or $160 million to Tunisia under a recent accord, with more promised. And they can say, hey, well, we didn't know. We didn't know that that's what they were doing. But at the end of the day, you don't care. You get to wash your hands of this shit like you're Pontius Pilate. It's not my problem anymore. But it's like, you know that what is happening is probably not okay here. And you're not going to do the research. And even now that the shit is being presented to you, you're not going to stop. I guarantee it. I mean, I would love to be wrong here, and maybe they change course now that this report has come out. But this is just, it's a terrible thing to do to, yet again, your fellow man. This is another human being with a family, with a dire situation that they're trying to get away from. And you're saying, ew, we don't want you here. And essentially throwing them out into the desert to die. Or what? Something even somehow worse somehow. To the evil people smugglers that they hate so much. Like, essentially perpetuating this cycle, but just hopefully for someone else in another country somewhere else, So, yeah, I mean, this was some shit that when I heard, I was listening to the BBC, and this made my shit just fucking boil. I do have a highlighted portion. Let's go ahead and hit that, and then we'll move on. The Lighthouse report said it interviewed more than 50 black migrants, all of them from sub-Saharan Africa and West Africa, who have been expelled from the 3 northern African countries. So yeah, I mean, essentially they use their testimony to kind of catalog and show what's been going on, and really trace it all the way back to the EU. So, I mean, I'm glad they did that. Because like I said, I've been roasting the goddamn UK. Actually, the next story we're about to be getting into is UK related. And they talk about the Tunisian's president. Was it President Saeed? He's on the same kind of shit. I mean, fuck him too. He's vowed his country will not become a country of transit or settlement for migrants from other African countries. But once again, this is just a guy that you are paying to do your dirty work if you're the EU. So once again, you're all complicit on this shit. You're all on the daisy chain together, so you can all get fucked if you ask me. But yeah, that's it. That's all I have. Like I said, there's more from the AFP.com if you'd like to go figure that out. Get the skinny there. But yeah, we have one more thing I wanted to cover, and then I will let you go for the day. It is also from the BBC. But before we get into it, let me go and take my last break. Hell yeah. Hopefully you take one with me. Why not? You got time, I hope. Oh, I feel like I got a burp coming. Mm-hmm. Man, it'll hit after. It's classic. All right. Ooh. Ooh, what I got? Okay. What is the infected blood scandal, and will victims get compensation? Ooh. More than 30,000 people in the UK were infected with HIV and hepatitis C after being given contaminated blood products in the 1970s and 1980s. A public inquiry a public inquiry has described the scale of the scandal as horrifying and accused doctors, the government, and NHS of repeatedly failing patients. Man, the UK fucking up. The UK was fucking up with people's mail and the postmasters. We covered that fucking shit. Now I'm finding out in the 70s and the 80s they was fucking with motherfuckers' blood, whole ass blood. Blimey. Y'all say that right? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, let's see here. Where did we leave off? The government says a final compensation scheme is being set up, and that some victims will receive interim payments of 210,000. Is that fucking pounds? Is that pounds, bruv? I think it's pounds. Yeah, it's pounds. Two main groups of NHS patients were affected by what has been called the biggest treatment disaster in the history of the NHS. Firstly, hemophiliacs and those with similar disorders who have a rare condition which means their blood does not clot properly. People with hemophilia A have a shortage of a clotting agent called factor what is it 8, while people with hemophilia B don't have enough factor 9. These are in Roman numerals, so hey, don't roast me for being slow. In the 1970s, a new treatment using donated human blood plasma was developed to replace these clotting agents. But whole batches were contaminated with deadly viruses, which seems insane that there isn't like a quality level of testing there. I get that this is like new shit, but like you're putting blood into people and it's like being used with like the same energy of like of a doctor in the medieval ages, and like that's crazy, that's insane. But let's see, after being given the infected treatments, about 1,250 people in the UK with bleeding disorders developed both HIV and hepatitis C, including 380 children. And they say in this article that it's like, in a lot of these situations, like you can get this and it takes time to even develop. And then, not to mention, now you have this, and now you have to like reevaluate your whole ass fucking life as you know it. Obviously, people are dying from this kind of stuff, and that's fucked up, and that's sad. But then you now have to then get into it with the government itself because like they're involved and related into this shit. So it's a whole doozy of a fucking story here. About 2/3 later, or around I think I skipped too far ahead here. Oh no, yeah, including 380 children. Around 2/3 later died of AIDS-related illnesses. Some unintentionally gave HIV to their partners. That's an added fucking thing. Another 2,400 to 5,000 people developed hepatitis C on its own, which can cause cirrhosis, and liver cancer. It is difficult to know the exact number of people infected with hepatitis C, partly because it can take decades for symptoms to appear. A second group of patients were given contaminated blood transfusions after childbirth, surgery, or other medical treatments between 1970 and 1991. Like, if I was living in this time and I had a blood issue, that could have been me. The inquiry estimates, I know you guys care so much about my fucking life, obviously. The inquiry estimates between 80 and 100 of these people were infected with HIV, and about 27,000 with hepatitis C. In total, it's thought about 2,900 people have died. The Hemophilia Society believes 650 people infected with contaminated blood products or their bereaved partners have died since the inquiry was announced in 2017. So yeah, I mean, this is really fucking extensive shit. It was one of those things where, like I said, I say I have a rule, right? Where I'm like, hey, I don't like covering stories that are like before my time. I have to give like a lot of historical context. I'm terrible at that kind of shit, especially trying to condense it into like a 15 to 30 minute fucking thing. But this was just like, it's fucking blood. Like, that's intense, man. Like, to have this thing going for so long and then to try to run interference to try to suppress this kind of story and like nothing yet and like be like, oh, well, we're doing the best we can to get you this money, yada, yada, yada. Needless to say, though, to kind of just cut a long story short, they are going to be doling out like billions of dollars to people. They do a rundown. A person infected with HIV, for example, can expect to receive compensation between 2.2 million pounds and 2.6 million pounds. These are average ranges rather than upper and lower limits. Those with chronic hepatitis C infection, defined as lasting more than 6 months, could be expected to receive 665,000 and 810,000 pounds. Examples of compensation awards for family members of those infected are given. There's some more numbers here. I really don't want to get you too involved or too bogged down in them. Obviously, you can look them up and see. But yeah, I mean, this was a fucking bad racket, and I get it. You go back in that time, this was like very like frontier medicine in a time of like in the 1970s, but like you have to be so fucking careful. And I know I kind of peruse some kind of stuff, but like the idea of like saying, hey, we're gonna get this kind of shit from whoever, however, I'm not blaming the people who gave the blood. I'm not, but I do blame, at the end of the day, there should have been better testing of said blood, no matter what, to make sure that like these kind of things weren't in it. You know, that like I'm a fucking dumbass. Obviously, I just mash trash for a living, but like if I'm in that position, I'm making sure that that's something that is done before we put this shit in anybody. Period. Right? Like you got to make sure that none of this shit's in there. And like if you can't, then maybe I don't know. We take this shit as slow as possible. Because I mean, obviously, we've gotten to a better place with it, right? Like I mean, at least I think. And whenever you donate to Hawksworth or whatever, like hopefully your blood's good and it's solid, and if it's not good, then it's not going to go into somebody, you know. Look, I'm not a blood boy, nor am I a blood expert, so I can't really tell you the ins and outs of this shit. I only know what I read and see, all right? And it's not much, but this seemed really fucked up and bad, so I made time to talk about it. And yeah, that's where we'll leave it. I know, not the best coverage, but hey, it's coverage. It happened, and you can always go to someone else if you didn't like this, or you know, you can look up the article. That's why I source it. I don't know. I'm feeling sassy. I'm in a little spicy mood, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that's it. That's the episode. I appreciate you listening to my bullshit. But if you'd like to take your support to the next level, support financially, become a newsie, there's a way. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Become a newsie today. I've been thinking about doing the shoutouts again, but once again, I need to get like that number up again. You know what I mean? I you know, it just feels bad just talking like one or two. I will say, I love y'all. You know I love y'all, no matter what. You know? But Steph, Ed, I'm looking at y'all. But anyway, free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. And let's see. Other free ways to hit me up on any of the socials, either me or the podcast. Hopefully you subscribe to the YouTube. That's another free way to help out a lot, actually. Helps out that algorithm, gives me a boost. Hit that like button, leave a comment. If you're not on YouTube and you want to help out, hit all the stars whenever platform you're on. Sharing is caring. It can be fun. Try it out, see what happens. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I'll see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.